Hey Clashers, welcome to an extra special episode of Clash On. We're gonna have several members of the Clash of Clans team sit down in a roundtable discussion to talk about the thoughts behind why we changed Builder Base, what are some of the new features that they each worked on, and kind of give you an insight into how we develop new content for Clash of Clans. Without further delay, meet the Clash of Clans development team members who have a story to tell about Builder Base 2.0. So Clash of Clans, we've got it divided into what we call 3 different columns or pillars, starting with the home village. Now that is the main source of all of the clashing action, where it's a social experience of you building your village, going to war with your clan. And now we have the clan capital, which is meant to be you and the rest of your clan exploring these ancient ruins and kind of rebuilding the archaeological remains of a lost empire. Now, Builder Base is meant to feel like a much more personal adventure into unexplored territory. We released this back in 2017?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I'd only been with the company for 2 weeks when Builder Base was released. So you, being one of the veterans on the team, what was some of the original ideas on why we released Builder Base in the first place?
Well, we wanted to have like a second village. The community was asking for it. There was like major problems with the home village, like the clouds and stuff like that. Battles were too complex. We wanted to have simpler battles for players who didn't like want to sort of like train like huge armies and
the early town hall experience was getting a little bit too, kind of like how Builder Base is now, right?
Yeah, and we just wanted to have some fun place where players could play like simple battles, sort of like a second base, yeah.
And also the environment of Builder Base, because players had asked for a night mode.
Yeah. Well, that was sort of like a no-brainer. Like, we need to do this in a night mode. We didn't have sceneries during those days. We didn't have any plan of doing sceneries. So it was sort of like okay, we need to do like this really cool looking like a outpost for the home village. And it needs to be like a night mode.
There was this problem in the Builder Base where spells really like made a difference in the home village, but we didn't have the same in Builder Base, right? Like you kind of deploy your units and then you just watch.
There's this very core issue where players can do a very good attack, get 90%, and unfortunately they lose because the other player did better, or they do an attack where it's like 30% of an attack, but they still win.
I had quite recently, since joining the Clash team, played through Builder Halls 1 through 6. So I had this first-hand experience of how much fun the game is at those lower Builder Halls and how engaging it is with that small-scale tactical combat. As you progress, you do start to hit an increasing amount of complexity, and progress really does slow to a crawl. For me personally, it went from being my most played mode in the game to probably my least.
Stuart made this AMA where someone asked, can you remove Builder Base? And Stuart answered, I can, and I didn't. Because to us, like, we don't mind taking big risks.
We know it's like super challenging to make big things, but we enjoy those challenges. Yeah. We try to take like these big risks and do things that other people wouldn't do.
I think it's really important to just address also all those issues, because those just become more and more annoying the more you play the game.
Because we didn't have the resources to focus on Builder Base beyond Builder Hall 9 years ago, there were a few ideas of what we wanted to do to sunset it, including just once you got Otto, that was going to be the end of it and you never touched it again.
Yeah.
Another one was a Boom Beach style mega crab, right? There was no end goal in sight for Builder Hall.
Yeah, like, because also like adding more Builder Halls would just be compounding the problem, right?
Yeah.
Like Builder Hall 10 in the current way would just make the bases bigger and more like the problem you were originally trying to solve by keeping it small and tight, right?
Yeah, for my playstyle, it already was that in Builder Hall 8 or something like that. It was way too complex for me.
Yeah.
I'm a simple guy. Like I play the home village sort of like it's sort of like a farming. I just like to keep it looking nice.
I suppose like our goal was to just try to solidify what's like really good during that honeymoon period of the Builder Base, and just getting rid of all that like bad stuff that starts to happen like after Builder Hall 5.
So we're looking for a way to have players enjoy Builder Base more.
Where did the idea to redesign the builder base came from?
Wow, I think it came from the whole team, right? Like, it started as discussions. We had kind of two ideas, and one idea was mainly from Stuart, Petri, and Alex, and they came up with this idea where you have multi-stages, and then you can split the village like that and always keep it small. We had also some other idea of like just selecting a few buildings to be active in your village, and we decided that it was better to have all your buildings available to defend.
We discussed in a team offsite together to come up with like what we don't like, and have the ideas of how to fix those. And we saw the opportunity to go back to the builder base, this third pillar, I would say, where players can also enjoy the game.
Yeah, it's been on our minds for a while now as well, and we've been aware of the concerns that the players have had. But it's just the whole team, we were so busy working on the other updates. First we had the clan capital, and then after that we had TH15. So everybody was super busy with that, but now it just felt like the right time, and we were all on board for it and went with it.
Yeah, it felt like the right time to take a big risk and do something completely different with builder base.
So one really cool change that we've done to builder base is also change some of the models and also some changes to the environment. So you guys are the artists, so why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's gonna be like an improvement on visual quality, like old hero and the new hero. They are now 3D, better animations, all the cool stuff.
Okay, yeah, so we did a revamp of the initial, the main area that you're familiar with. Because we're not going to the much bigger bases, the size of the area you play in is actually a little bit smaller. And now there's the gate that you go through and pass into the next area, and we're hoping that we can make more and more of these, and you can swap them around and kind of build your own kind of story that you let other players come in and compete in, right? So when they come to your base, you might have a mountain, you might have a forest, you might have like, I don't know what we'll end up doing, but we'll try to make them as cool as we can.
So something important to players is the knowledge that if they have already unlocked Otto, the second builder for builder base, or the sixth builder for home village, let's be honest, if you have unlocked that additional builder, you will keep that additional builder. That will not change. What we have changed is that at Builder Hall 6, now you unlock a dedicated second builder for the builder base, and at Builder Hall 9, you still unlock a sixth builder for the home village. We've just changed the name slightly. So Otto stays in the builder base and arrives at Builder Hall 6, and we have a new, definitely not a robot builder, Bob, who arrives at Builder Hall 9. The new Otto, who unlocks at Builder Hall 6, he comes along with Otto's outpost, which is the hall, essentially, at the center of the second stage. Whereas Bob, he's unlocked through quests, similar to how Otto was previously unlocked, but we have changed those quests so that they are more appropriate for the redesigned builder base.
Also, just the builder base having one builder at the moment, you get the second one on the sixth builder hall, but that can go to the main village. But right now we're introducing two builders that'll be full-time for the builder base, so that'll be pretty nice. You can build faster, and that'll make things interesting.
The new stages open up at Builder Hall 6. So when you get to Builder Hall 6, there's a little cave that's now been added to the map, and that becomes the second stage. So you can now split the defenses between the two stages. You can pretty much mix and match. And the idea is to keep these small tactical battles without increasing the complexity of the size of the map.
With the team, I think we kind of came up then with this idea that, okay, what are the ways we could then to just utilize like everything we have in the builder base and grow it, but still kind of keep it small. So, so this multi-stage approach was one of the ideas.
First idea was like, maybe you have a bunch of buildings and you pick one of them, a few of them, to go to your village. But that wasn't very interesting because you could just not care about some of the buildings, right? So we came up with this idea that you start building a base. When it gets too big, we start in the second one. And then you attack those two bases, still every building counts, every upgrade matters. And that's really where it came from.
Yeah, I remember some early ideas as well, thematically, like you would go down this cave and there was this elevator or something. It was pretty cool, but yeah, we ended up like having this second village next to your main or builder base village, right?
You can pick whichever defenses you want to go on the first stage and which go to the second stage. And I'm really excited to see what players are going to do with that. They're going to do like a very strong air defense on the first stage to do like counters to air, and then a lot of ground defenses on the second one. If they're going to do like a balanced defense, I'm really interested in seeing what players come up with this new mechanic that makes kind of builder base very unique.
Everyone really enjoyed smaller bases, and we know that like we have a little bit of a problem in like teaching players more complex strategies. And with fewer troops and more puzzly kind of bases, we give the players an opportunity to learn and practice some of those smaller strategies that they can then, scale into the home village, right? So that was kind of the idea, is that we can give them these smaller, kind of less troops, more focused puzzle kind of experiences. And then obviously we can't just cut half of the content, and we need some way of keeping it going. So that's when the designers came up with this idea of doing stages. So like going deeper into the builder base, into this wilderness, this new land, and kind of exploring. Some of our early ideas were like this dungeon crawly, maybe you go underground, like into a mountain, that kind of stuff, right?
So it's quite challenging to keep this 2 village attack quick, like snappy, so that you can, we're not dragging out your attack. And it created this new requirement for like cool new mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
What can change when you attack one village and then another one, right?
Yeah.
So that was quite risky, but I think we did an interesting job trying to solve the problem.
It's also, we're giving troops more power. We're removing troops, we're making troops fewer. We're not removing troops, we're making them fewer. And we're giving some of them abilities, right? So even just attacking feels more strategic now, because you can deploy something and you then have to kind of treat it like a hero in a way, like where you have to actually activate an ability to take down your opponent's defense. We made it hard. It's really difficult now.
It's really hard for me, at least. I don't know about you guys, but to get a 6-star. But I don't know how it's
6-star is like I got it once, and that was I think the balancing was a little bit different back then, so it was a bit easier now.
Well, sometimes it's too hard, sometimes it's too easy, right?
Yeah, and I think Petri still gets 6 stars, and that's important.
Yeah.
I really like how we now have these 2 components kind of split, that you can like really improve in attacking, and you're gonna see the results from that. You're gonna get more trophies, and you're gonna climb the ladder. But if you don't change your defenses, they're gonna stay having the same results, and you're gonna kind of start to lose trophies there. So you have to kind of progress in the 2 sides at the same time. So it's kind of like really solves that problem of just staying with the same defense forever, and it makes more fun.
So one thing players have to understand is that they can get attacked while they're online, not like in the home village where you actually have to be offline. So if you are playing in the builder base and someone attacks you, you're gonna see an icon appearing on top of your elixir card. And if you want to, you can go observe the attack in real time, or you can just like do some other things, do more attacks and everything, and just wait until the attack is completed and collect the reward from that attack after that.
You might notice that there's no builder hall in the second stage. Instead, there's the Otto outpost. And it works a little bit differently. Once you destroy Otto's outpost, it actually spawns a few sappies. And they're pretty nasty to deal with. But maybe one thing that might help you deal with those sappies is the reinforcements. And the reinforcements are these troops that you get once you actually get to the second stage. They're there to help you. You can still swap them out to any troop that you want. So you might take a look at the second stage and plan out a little bit, and you notice that you're stuck with few barbarians and whatnot, and at least you have those reinforcement troops that you can actually swap out to whatever you might need to defeat the second stage.
You don't lose loot while you attack, right? Like in home village would be really complicated if you are online and you're gonna upgrade something and then you get attacked and you lose loot, and now you don't have the resource to upgrade. But in builder base, that's not a problem.
So when you enter the battle, you will notice that the UI is a little bit different, because there was a few challenges we had when we added the abilities. One of the challenges was to keep track of the troops. And what I did there was I added this number to the troop card and bought the health bar. And this now made it a little bit easier to keep track of the troops. The second challenge we had was now we also need to keep track of the abilities. And what I did there was I added this ability bar next to the number and also above the health bar. And it basically shows if you have used or not used the ability. And then finally, I also increased the health bar size a little bit because I noticed that now it's like super important to keep track of the troops' health.
So another thing that I really enjoy about the new system is how if you want to keep attacking, you can do so and you will still get rewards for that. So with the old system, once you'd achieved your star bonus for the day, there wasn't really much value in continuing to play unless you just wanted to continue to play, which of course is valid. But what we have now is a system where you can continue to attack and earn those defenses and earn that builder gold and correspondingly continue to earn that builder elixir for your defenses. You only get the star bonus the once, but you can continue to get rewards by continuing to play just like in every other mode.
Something new that we've added to Builder Base are heroic abilities for the troops.
The idea actually comes from one of our client engineers, Simiao. So yeah, we started some prototyping, right?
Yeah, during the winter break, Simeo and I were still working, actually by ourselves, and we decided to start doing a bunch of troop abilities and trying to figure out like the actual size of the builder base. It was like 1 month, just me and him going at it on the builder base too.
When I was playing the old builder base, I used to really enjoy the part of like using the abilities for the hero, even though it was just cooldown and you just wait a little bit. And then when it's ready, it's almost always the case that you just want to press it. It was still like fun to wait and like watch what's going on. And I thought that it would be really cool if we had a bunch of that in the builder base, like a bunch of troops that have abilities and they have different triggers, different kind of situations where you're gonna get most value of the ability. So you kind of like watch and kind of cheer for like, oh, I really hope this troop gets into this state so I can get like really a lot of value from this ability. And you have to kind of watch your troops combining things and stuff like that.
So it was less like spam and leave, but more like play some troops, watch them, use abilities, kind of mimicking some of the hero abilities that you get later on in the home village.
First troops that we tried to prototype and that we just didn't have the mechanic in the game was taunt. We had this kind of giant with taunt. We just painted this giant pink. For the logic, we didn't have anything to reuse easily. So the just like hacky way to do it was make all the other troops invisible for 1 tick. And then like all the buildings are gonna attack the troop that's not invisible. It doesn't really work as a final code, but for prototyping, it was really fast.
But I think for the most part, we've got like some of the base troops that you first get are just 4 or 5 barbarians go, very simple, right? And then as you kind of unlock the troops, they get more complex, right? So how you interact with them becomes a little bit more complicated.
Something we care about a lot when doing these troop abilities is that they need to be clear for players watching an attack. When you look at a certain troop attacking a certain building, you need to understand that that troop has or doesn't have the ability for you to use. The giant, for example, has this potion in his belt that shows up when he has the potion to drink and gets invulnerable. The baby dragon has a fire in his tail that indicates that baby dragon has an ability to be used. So we try to get all troops with different kind of indicators and visual cues, tell the player this troop has an ability to be used. Here are the troops that have activated abilities. The giant, he gets a one-time use of a shield that makes him invulnerable for a few seconds. It's really good to use on situations where he drops in the middle of a bunch of buildings and you need to protect him.
The bomber is another troop that has activated ability. Once the ability is used, the bomber drops a big bomb and it bounces 3 times, destroying a lot of walls and the defenses.
Another troop that has an activated ability is the cannon cart. And it's a bit unique in the sense that it has 2 modes. So when you activate the ability, the cannon cart switches to a stationary mode where it has huge range, but it doesn't move. You can actually activate it again and it starts moving again. And you can do that however many times you want, and it's very cool to kind of like place it in a strategic position where all the defenses can't reach it, but it can reach the defenses.
The Night Witch gets a bit of a rework of her ability. Currently in Builder Base, when she dies, she spawns a bunch of bats, but now you get the ability to choose when to spawn those bats. You can use the active ability once to spawn a bunch of bats. They're also enraged now, which makes them stronger for a little while. And if you use the ability early, when she dies, she's not going to spawn them.
There's also dropship. It drops a bomb. The bomb explodes and destroys a bunch of walls. And then on top of that, it also spawns a lot of skeletons, which is like perfect to overtake the defenses.
Super P.E.K.K.A, when she's defeated, she explodes and does a lot of area damage around her. So now you can actually activate that by using her ability.
During one lunch, we came up with this idea that the Night Witch would recall the bats. And this got like really crazy because you can imagine, let's say you have like 3 Night Witches on the field. The bats start swarming in. And then when you activate one Night Witch ability, all the bats move towards that Night Witch. It sounded cool on paper, but it was like really, really hard to use that ability. And also, most of the times, the bats just flew over defenses and died anyway. Like,
yeah.
So it didn't end up being that fun to use.
So the Giant was pretty challenging. We tried many different ideas, but they were somehow not working.
Yeah, we started out with this taunt ability that will get all the defenses to attack the Giant that taunted them. But it was quite technical. It was kind of fun, but technical, a little confusing. So we went to another ability which allowed the Giant to jump, kind of like El Primo from Brawl Stars, do a big jump and fall on the defense, jumping over walls and doing damage. But then the Bomber wasn't really that useful anymore, right? It kind of lost the need to use bombers in an attack. So we actually tried a bunch of different abilities and ended up with this final one which allows the Giant to become invulnerable for a few seconds.
When you unlock Builder Hall 10, you will get a brand new troop called Electro-Fire Wizard. Pretty obvious that he deals with electricity and fire.
We have the cannon card, right? And we have this cannon card that has 2 modes. We really like that. So we wanted to have another troop that had 2 modes as well. Electro-Fire Wizard can swap between 2 attack modes. He uses electricity, like the Electro Dragon, to do a chain lining attack that bounces between different buildings. When you swap to the fire mode, the Electro-Fire Wizard can do this Inferno Tower-like attack. There's very high damage to a single target that builds up over time. Being able to swap between electric mode and fire mode lets you take advantage of both types of attacks, making the Electro-Fire Wizard great at any situation.
But early on, we also had many different fun concepts for the wizard, and one of them was that he comes from the home village, and then he could never be a wizard, right? And then he ends up getting these gadgets and ends up becoming even more powerful than an actual wizard. We turned away from that idea later on.
One very silly idea that I put forward was something that had gotten stuck in my head about the idea of a wizard who carried around 2 hats and would just change between them so that he could cast different spells. Because everyone knows that the magic comes from the hat, right? And that very silly idea was, I think, the genesis for the much more coherent idea of the Electro-Fire Wizard.
In Builder Base, the hero so far has been the Master Builder. Because we wanted to increase the tactical variety of Builder Base, I think the obvious choice was not introduce a brand new hero, but give Master Builder a brand new machine, which you actually got to name.
Yeah, so we were calling it the Battlecopter, and it's another device that the Master Builder pilots that he made. And it's like a hovering kind of helicopter kind of ish construct.
We've never had any air hero in a Builder Base before. We certainly have one on the main village, which is the Grand Warden. But I think it'll be really nice to also now strategize differently, considering your hero that will also be flying, and it's a really cool one. We've got a Battlecopter now.
Yeah.
Because we wanted the troops to feel much more heroic during battle, we gave them activated abilities. So how do we distinguish them between the troops and Master Builder's machines? Master Builder machines, whether it's Battle Machine or the Battlecopter, will now have 3 levels of an activated ability.
When the Battlecopter reaches charge level 3, his ability gets a much wider radius, doing massive damage in a big area.
Obviously, you run the risk of, do I take more damage to my hero while waiting for it to charge to level 3? Or do I use it right now just to give that little extra boost of damage and health points?
If you reach the second stage, you can actually swap the machine So let's say you go in with the battle machine, you reach stage 2, now you swap it out for a full health battlecopter. That's like super nice.
Yeah, maybe the battle machine gets destroyed in the first attack,
Yeah,
but you still have another machine to use in the second one,
yeah.
right?
Master Builder lives on.
I really wanted to give homage to the classic Builder animation. When he's on Builder Potion, he's just knocking around really fast, hammering around. So I definitely wanted to add that in there, just to have that clash moment, I feel. And also overall the relationship that the Builder will have with the machines. Again, an opportunity as well in the future for us when we introduce skins. It doesn't maybe necessarily have to be a mech. It could be something else completely different without giving away too much. So that'll be pretty interesting to explore, and also the relationship of the Builder with the machines that he's building. Maybe the machine he builds gets too smart, or like, you know, a bit too powerful that he's jealous of it, or maybe the machine is not basically reacting to how he wants it to react. So a lot of interesting storytelling ideas we can explore. We mainly explore a lot in the menu animations, which are a lot longer, and that's the personality moment of a character. We kind of wanted to really show weight on these characters, right? Both of them. With each step now, you want to see the whole body shaking on the battle machine and also on the air machine. And yeah, just exploring the weight, making the attacks feel a lot more heavier and interesting, so it reflects in gameplay, and hopefully players can engage with them a lot more.
When we were first talking about how do we explain the stages, and there was talk about like roguelite, kind of like card collection, there was all sorts of discussion at the really beginning, but we like this idea of like going into something, like you're going into a dungeon, like a tabletop RPG, kind of like where you get your miniatures out, you're like going through the rooms, right? Like that kind of feel is what we wanted, right? And that's a little bit reflected in the loading screen that we have, where we want to show characters coming into a space that they've never been to before and not showing that to the players, so they get seeing the reactions of the characters as they come into this new place.
Now that we have a second stage of Builder Base, how can we continue creating that sense of adventure and exploration and kind of delving deeper into Builder Base?
We're Builder Hall 10 now, so maybe Builder Hall 11 or 12 or 13 will soon, because we added stage 2 at Builder Hall 6, so maybe the stage 3 would come at maybe Builder Hall 11 or 12 or something. So the idea is that we'll keep adding these locations, and through cosmetics, we'll allow players to collect different skins for each of those stages and then swap them. That's the ambition. We can't do that right now, but that's the long-term ambition, is that we have these stages that you can then go and theme and design how you want them to look.
And so what that actually means from a player perspective is that Builder Base isn't going to be just a set and forget feature like Builder Hall 9 was at one point in the game's history. This means that there's going to be continuing and ongoing development of new Builder Base content into the foreseeable future. So basing that on the 3 pillars of our game, there will be new town hall levels in the home village. When it comes to the clan capital, there will be new capital hall levels as we grow the clan capital. And the same thing goes for the Builder Base. Builder Base will see ongoing development as a core feature of the game. So with these 3 pillars now in place, we have an ongoing development of 3 different parts of the game that will seem alive and active constantly. Thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed this truly unprecedented access to how the Clash of Clans team goes about not only creating new content, but specifically our thought process behind how we redeveloped Builder Base 2.0. Please post your comments below, and don't forget that all important like and subscribe button. Until next time, everyone, Clash on.